Hey everyone, welcome to the I303 podcast with your host David Prieto. Here I share my ingenious insights and oddball opinions from the perspective of an IO. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking a little bit more about who I am, where I come from, and why you should care about what I'm going to be sharing today. And I'm going to share with you what that is now. So who am I? I'm one of 6 children from a Mexican-American family. So my dad and my mom both immigrated from a small town in Mexico called Parral, and they both had a chance to immigrate to the United States. First, it was my dad. Started immigrating into Colorado, where he was essentially working as a farmhand. Lived there for a couple of years and was sending money over to my mom, so that way the two of them can eventually both move over into the States and move into Colorado. So from there, my dad had an opportunity to grow his skill set, and he felt deep inside that he wanted to be more than just a farmhand, more than just a migrant worker. He wanted to make something of himself. He wanted to live the American dream. So he ended up getting a job as a busboy working for a local restaurant. And from there, he started to learn how to cook. Had a chance to do that for a little while, and he realized he wasn't making enough money. And so he went into learning how to bake. So he lived in an area in Colorado, relatively small place, primarily catered to migrants, and he learned how to become a busboy, learned how to become a cook, and eventually learned how to become a baker. From there, he decided he wanted to make more of himself and recognized Colorado may not necessarily be the place to do that. Nothing wrong with Colorado. Shout out, it was the first place to legalize marijuana in the United States, but from an immigrant perspective, may not necessarily be the best place to grow a family or to really entrench oneself into the American dream. So he started looking around, and he had a cousin or a family member that was living in the Bay Area, San Francisco. And so after collecting enough money, being able to get my mom to come over to Colorado to be with him, they decided to take the trip over to San Francisco, to move from Colorado over to San Francisco. And this was the day before they had cell phones, before they had GPS, before they had the internet. So they had to do the old Thomas guide to try to figure out, how am I going to get through these Rocky Mountains all the way to the Bay Area without GPS, without a cell phone, and essentially trying to figure out by just sticking your finger out in the window and hoping this is due north. Somehow they figured it out. Ended up making it all the way to San Francisco from Colorado. And according to my dad, as soon as he got there, the family member that was up there that he was supposed to meet was nowhere to be found. Tried calling him using a payphone, tried going to the address he shared, couldn't find him. So my mom and dad were stuck in San Francisco, could barely speak a lick of English, trying to figure out and navigate, how are we going to make this work? Luckily, my mom had somebody living in Southern California at the time, specifically the Silmar, San Fernando area. Shout out to the Spartans. And they decided to move up, or down I should say, from San Francisco to the Silmar, San Fernando area. Ended up moving out there, and the rest is history. The two of them ended up creating an entire family, ended up having 6 children, and I am number 4 on that list. And you know what they say about the child who was born 4th? They came after the child who was born 3rd. And so yeah, that was me. I'm number 4. We actually have 5 boys and 1 girl in our family, with the girl being my older sister. Shout out to you, Nana. Thank you for being everything that you have been and being amazing, almost like a second mom. It's her, and the rest are boys. And as you can imagine, growing up in that environment, it was definitely a tricky environment. So from there, I had a chance to grow up in the Silmar, San Fernando area, and I went to high school in Granada Hills. I went to Kennedy High School specifically. Shout out to the Cougars. Don't like you, coach. I was a part of a team. I'm not going to say which one, but those of you that grew up with me know what sport I played and know that I did not get along with my high school coach. Low key, he's one of the reasons why I have this drive to prove other people wrong. Didn't give me a shot as part of the starting lineup. Didn't give me a shot to do everything I wanted to do in my senior year. So I've held this chip on my shoulder for a little while. But even though I had that, I was able to navigate through and make it past those hurdles and those obstacles that I had. So from high school, I had a couple of different options in terms of what college I wanted to go to. There was one locally called CSUN, Cal State University Northridge. I also applied to another school, Cal State University Long Beach, or CSU Long Beach. Shout out to the Sandbags, or the Dirtbags, the Dirtbags, baseball team for Long Beach. Not the people, the team. And so I had a choice on my hand. I can either go to CSUN, which was the local university in my area, or I could try exploring outwards. I could try Long Beach. And so that's what I tried. I tried going to Cal State Long Beach my first semester post high school and first one in college. And I tried commuting there from the San Fernando Silmar area down to Long Beach. If you live in the area, the 405 has probably the worst traffic in all of the United States. I mean, for something that's a stretch of 30, 40 miles, it could take anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hours. And I was doing that commute almost every day for my first semester of college. The reason I was commuting is I didn't want to pay the crazy prices that they were charging to live near the university. But Long Beach did have a reputation for having a really strong psychology program, and I was really interested in being a part of that program. So I essentially decided I'm going to go ahead and move forward and try to make it work, try to do the commute. Did that first semester. It was brutal. Realized I'm not going to be able to make this long term. So after that first semester, I decided to transfer back to CSUN, stay local, and make sure I can graduate from there. So while going through college, I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do with the psychology degree, but I did know I did have an interest and a passion for all things psychology, whether it was what motivated people, how we can make fundamental attribution errors in, different situations, different biases that exist, or the profile of, mass murderers. I was interested in all of it. Initially, I thought I was going to go more the clinical route, which is, shout out to Jordan Peterson, one of the more traditional routes for psychologists where they become clinicians, help people navigate and work through different problems. That was definitely option one for me. Another was essentially forensic psychology. So if any of you have seen Mindhunters, that's essentially the birth of forensic psychology, where they tried to profile serial killers, individuals who are, deviant when it comes to breaking the law. That was another subset of psychology that really caught my interest. So I had clinical, I had forensic, and out of nowhere, I came across IO, or industrial organizational psychology. And as I started to learn more about it, that's when I recognized, okay, this may be something I can see myself doing. So I learned more about IO during my time at CSUN and recognized this I can get behind. The psychology of work, what motivates people in the workplace, how do we identify and select the right people to hire? How do we know how to train and develop? What does organizational development look like? What does that even mean? So these were all questions I was asking myself and all questions I wanted to know the answer to. So that right there, that's when I knew, and it let me know that I wanted to pursue this route. And so I decided I'm going to go ahead and try to apply to graduate school. Now, no one in my family had done that before. So I was going to be the first to have a graduate degree and be a Prieto at the same time. So this was a big deal. And I didn't know who to turn to. I didn't know what to do. I just tried figuring it out on my own. From Long Beach, I got, the conditionally accepted notice. Essentially, it was stating, you're good, but you're not that good. So you're going to be on the bench. And if any of the starters decide not to play, that's when we'll tap you and we'll invite you back into the program. So this brought me back to my time in high school where my coach did not want to let me go and start and play as part of the starting lineup. And it brought back those memories, brought back that chip, reminded me, okay, I need to focus and lock into what I need to do. I was waiting to hear back from both San Jose State and San Bernardino, hoping one of them would accept me. San Jose State did not. And so that left me crossing my fingers, hoping this is going to be reality. This isn't going to fall through. I'm going to be able to make it. I got that acceptance letter and I was super excited. I was going to be the first person from my family to attend graduate school in a field I found really interesting. Quick side note, not only did I find it really interesting, but I also found out it's one of the highest paid fields in psychology. And so that doesn't hurt when you're selecting a major. But I digress. So I was accepted into the program, went through it, was able to stay up all hours of the day, all hours of the night, making sure I was going to be able to navigate well through this program. The reason I wasn't able to complete that, I actually got a full-time job working with the second largest school district that existed at the time, which is in all of the United States, which is the LA Unified School District. And so I was caught in this weird position where I was trying to do this groundbreaking work, this groundbreaking study, but at the same time, I needed to eat. I mean, skills pay the bills, and if I'm going to school, I'm not able to leverage any of my skills to pay any of my bills. But on the flip side, LA Unified was willing to hire me. They recognized I had a skill set that they were looking for, that I was able to leverage the science of work to be able to improve not only who we're hiring, but who we're developing, who we're promoting, and how we're evaluating staff. And so based on the experience I gained while going to San Bernardino, LA Unified hired me. But I didn't quite finish the program yet. I needed to eat. And so I decided I'm going to go ahead and put this on the back burner, and I'm going to go work full-time working for the LA Unified School District. And I did that for a few years. While working there were a couple of promotional opportunities that slipped through my fingers, if you will. Although it wasn't required for those higher level positions, master's degrees are preferred. And because I didn't have one, I wasn't necessarily on the short list of preferred individuals. And so that didn't sit well with me. But there was this opportunity I saw that they didn't necessarily require a master's, any specific master's, but it was a master's degree in a related field. And that could be a variety of different things. And so one of the things I considered and ended up doing was I decided to get my MBA while still working full time. That's one of the things I liked. And the university I chose was Cal State San Bernardino. I had already gone there for a few years. I had already become familiar with the campus, familiar with where everything was in the community. And they were having a growing MBA program, especially focusing in on entrepreneurship. They were becoming known as kind of an incubator for the local community, for students to go in, create business ideas, and try to get them out and running into the world. So as I was learning more about MBA programs in the area, that really resonated with me. Being that, my dad had the opportunity to work himself from the ground up, come from Mexico with nothing, go to Colorado, go to San Francisco, then swing back to the San Fernando Valley, start his own business as a baker. That entrepreneurship bug, I think, ran in my blood, and this program spoke to me. And so I decided I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna apply. I'm gonna see what happens. Applied to the program and was accepted. And I ended up working full time and going to school full time while sleeping 0 time. And so that's what I was doing for about a year and a half. Luckily, I met some really good and amazing people, some strong people during the MBA program over at Cal State San Bernardino. And normally I would have probably taken it easier, maybe have taken the extended route, expanding my MBA experience to 3, maybe 4 years, kind of taking it easy, going part-time because I was working full-time. But during my first semester there, I met some really amazing people, and they were go-getters, man. And they essentially had the mindset of, I'm going to finish this program as soon as I can. I'm taking as many courses as often as I can so I don't have to stay stuck in this MBA program. I can get the degree, get the skills, and then move on and do something. And so that's what I did. I was fortunate enough to meet a really strong group of people where they motivated me, man. I mean, it's who you surround yourself with that can really impact what you focus in on and what is of value to you. And so for me, that's when I was like, yeah, I mean, they're right. Why be stuck in this program longer than I have to? Let me grind through this year and a half as quickly and as fast as I can so I can get this degree as fast as I can so I can start making as much money as fast as I can. And that's what I did. So it took me about a year and a half to work through the MBA program. One of the interesting things is because I was focusing in specifically in the entrepreneurship program, I was trying to create a business while also going to the program, going full time and working full time. And I'll come back to that a little bit. I'll come back to that a little bit later. But the business I was trying to create was something called Bowtie Thieves, where it was going to be a lifestyle. I'll get into that a little bit later. But I digress. So I was able to complete the MBA program while still going to work, while still working full time. And I eventually transitioned over to working for one of the top streaming services in the whole world. I was hired to work with Netflix. And there, it was an exciting time. I was working at Netflix around the time that Stranger Things was coming about. That was back when The Get Down had just debuted. That's the breakdancing show. Didn't have a great second season, but the first season was pretty good. And that's where The Crown had just come out. I was also there when their version of the Avengers was coming out. So they had the Defenders, not to be confused with the Avengers, but it was essentially not Deadpool. What's his name? Daredevil. It was Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist. Is there one more? I think that's all of them. But yeah, I was there when all of those shows were coming out. And so at Netflix, I was part of the global talent acquisition and learning and development team. And so there, I was able to leverage both what I learned as part of the IO program, or Industrial Organizational Psychology program, as well as the MBA program. That's where I really started to learn, okay, we have best practices when it comes to IO, but how is it making a business impact? How is it positively contributing to business results? That's not something they teach you in IO programs, is how to quantify fiscally the benefit of using structured interviews, or the benefit of using a Kirkpatrick model, or the benefit of making sure performance evaluations are consistent. IO doesn't show you how to fiscally calculate the benefit of those programs. The MBA program helped me do just that. How do I calculate return on investment? How do I calculate cash flow, profit, revenue? And what I think provides me with a unique perspective is I'm able to bridge the gap between those two areas. That we have HR or IO best practices, we have business best practices, and here I come and I'm able to mesh the two. And I think that's what provides me with a unique perspective and a unique vantage point to leverage the best of both worlds. And that's something that I've consistently leaned into and have grown over the years. And so that leads me to the most recent experience that I have. I'm now working for the second largest energy company in the United States. And I'm primarily focused in on how do we calculate the return on investment for all of the people programs throughout the organization. How do we calculate the return on investment based on the talent acquisition process we have? How do we calculate the return on investment based on all the learning and development programs we've delivered? Too many times have I seen in an organization where they just kind of throw stuff at the wall. Why are you developing this program, I ask? Oh, because we should. That's not a good reason. Because we should. Or an executive will say, because I read it somewhere, or because another competitor is doing it, or because I was reading this LinkedIn post where they recommended this new approach. There has to be more justification or more rationale as to why a program should exist. And here I come, where I'm now starting to evaluate that. What is the return on this particular program? Do the benefits outweigh the costs? And I'm starting to ask these questions, and people are starting to scratch their heads. Like, that's a good question. How do we calculate that? How do we quantify that? What metrics are we going to use? And that's essentially what I'm trying to figure out, is how do we leverage IO best practices, business best practices, to come up with an overall evaluation for all the people practices we're engaging in. And that's what I'm knee deep in right now. And that brings me to my final point, is what am I passionate about? What am I trying to convey? What do I like to do? So for me, I like to leverage, like I touched upon, IO best practices, business best practices, and I like to evaluate both, or I like to evaluate talent management using both. So how do we make sure we're hiring in the most effective way? How do we make sure we're developing in the most effective way? How do we know we're selecting the right leaders? How do we know we're engaging in the right leadership philosophy? With all of that, how do we know all of those processes are positively impacting or positively benefiting the organization overall? That's what I'm really focused in on right now. And that brings me to the ultimate goal of the I303 podcast, is I'm here to share the benefits and the insights of IO best practices and business best practices. And I'm going to bridge the gap between those two so that you, leaders, or organizations at large can leverage the best of both worlds. That there's now a specific reason and a specific rationale as to why we're engaging in this particular activity. So thank you for listening, and I'll see you all in the next show.